genre.
In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the Ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. Thank you for listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. We're a podcast in here. We can't be reasoned with. We don't feel pity or remorse or fear, and we absolutely will not stop, ever, until the Terminator gets remade. And to do that, I've assembled an all-star team of returning Ideal Remake guests. Mimi Darling, Chris Lord, and Dianne Bloom. Welcome back, everyone. So, is The Terminator a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
Has been remade.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And I like them.
And
Yeah.
do you think it will be remade again?
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
The Terminator's never over.
No.
Should it be remade?
No.
I think there's room. I think there's room to do something interesting with it, actually.
Well,
one of those-
what I mean is that I think they should continue the story on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that after we decide how it should go further, that should go on. But it's not. I don't think it's pure remake of the film.
Oh,
I think
so.
I think it's really hard to do a remake of the 1984 film. I think you have to bring it up to today's thing.
I would
sure.
actually, I think there is a way to remake the 1984
Ew.
film, especially because it's the year of our Lord 2021.
Yes.
You know? And there are some things that have happened in our lives that we can easily draw from and still make it happen 7 years from now.
That is true.
You know, so
Mhm.
I do think
So
there's
the-
possibility.
So the Terminator, not Terminator, the Terminator, made it very difficult to look up because I kept forgetting, is one of those rare all threes. That's fun. So, this is episode 100.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Congrats, Sam.
Thank you all for being here for episode 100 of Ideal Remake. I'm very excited. Let's start by everyone going around the table and introducing yourselves. Dianne, let people get acquainted with your voice and tell everyone about who you are.
I'm Dianne Bloom. I live in LA. I used to be a director of development at a film company, and then I decided I should do other stuff. So now I'm a writer.
And you were previously on for Hackers and Ronin and Wanted and In a Lonely Place.
Yes.
Got it. Mimi.
I am Mimi Darling, and if that sounds like a stage name, you are correct. But more importantly, you know, I have a fun little Instagram account called SeeItOnTuesday where I help you decide how to watch a movie because you should definitely see it. That's me, Mimi Darling.
And you previously forced me to watch Catwoman.
I did force you to watch Catwoman, but the Catwoman we created was...
I am a fan of what we did. I think
It's
that's a great
amazing.
episode. Like, I
And-
recommend that episode to people.
We should call people and say, hey, listen to this episode, make this movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm Chris Lord. I live in LA. I'm a podcast producer. And I'm trying to remember all the episodes I've been on for now at this point. Wait, until I can do it.
Go for it.
Superman,
Yes.
James Bond,
Yes.
The British Avengers,
Yes.
League of Strange Gentlemen.
Yes. That is correct.
Ah,
Very good.
all right. And I am the reason why Mimi, you had to do Catwoman. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. We tortured Sam. It's you know, two birds, one stone.
It is. You've given me a lot to talk about because I've now seen that movie.
You're welcome.
And I mentioned this while we were eating lunch that, like, look, if you hadn't made me watch Catwoman, I wouldn't have known that Wonder Woman 1984 is Catwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we learned a valuable lesson.
Apparently, we are not the only people to have seen it, and I think that's really what's clear here.
Agreed.
Somebody saw it and was like, let's forget about it and rewrite it.
Patty Jenkins.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I said someone.
It's not important who. The important thing is that it's a P and a J. No one's worried. But we're talking about Terminator today. So how did everyone first see Terminator? I guess let's go back around the other way. Chris,
Sure.
do you remember when you first saw Terminator? I'm sorry, The Terminator?
The Terminator. Yeah, probably not when I first saw it. It's definitely one of those movies that I saw way younger than I should have. Because my dad was just like, this is a fun movie. Let's sit down and watch it. And I can't remember the last time I watched the first one, but I've seen T2 so many times now that it was very weird to go back and watch the first one and have to try and take some of that imagery and also just like that caliber of filmmaking out, because The Terminator, it's good, but a lot of mistakes it made, James Cameron fixed when he got to the next one.
Yeah.
And so it was just a weird retro thing that, like, mostly, like, the idea mostly holds up, but you also understand why, like, oh, if it weren't for T2, like, this franchise would have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. I agree with that. Mimi.
Yeah, okay, so I was definitely young enough to be like, ooh, butts! You know, when I saw The Terminator.
Fair.
Could not tell you my age at that point because I still haven't stopped saying ooh, butts. But I was a young child, and I probably shouldn't have seen it then. However, what I will say is I watched T2, I watched The Terminator, and then I watched Terminator 3, and I have a favorite, and it's not the one you think it is. Those three.
Excellent. Diane?
Well, first of all, to Mimi, I think you have to respect Terminator 3 because they actually destroy the world.
Mm-hmm.
They do
They
it,
don't
yeah.
save it. They bomb the world. It's great. I love the ending of Terminator 3. I, too, probably saw The Terminator, at a very young age and probably much younger than I should have. My parents were sort of notorious for letting me see movies that I probably shouldn't have watched. I'd watched a lot of French New Wave films, so ooh, butts didn't really get off with me because I was like, oh, more butts. But I thought it was awesome. T2 I remember, T3. About the only Terminator movie I haven't seen repeatedly is Terminator Salvation. I'm just like, ew.
Cool, that brings us to me. So, as I've mentioned many times in the podcast, my movie watching history is weird and bad. So, I had made it to college and never saw a Terminator movie. And I remember literally the day I flew back home from college, because Terminator Salvation came out in May or something. Mm-hmm. And the day I flew back home, all my friends were going to go to a midnight screening of Terminator Salvation. And so we were all waiting around to go see that movie. And somehow my friends found out that I'd never seen a Terminator movie. And they said, Sam, Terminator Salvation cannot be the first Terminator movie you've ever seen.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we watched the first half of T2, and then went to the midnight screening of Terminator Salvation, and then went back to their apartment after this midnight screening to finish T2. So that's my first Terminator experience. T2 first, the first half of T2 first, then Terminator Salvation, and the rest of T2 all in one night. And then a year or two later, my mom was like, you've never seen Terminator? And then I watched the first Terminator with my mother when I was 22. And that's how so watching Terminator again for this podcast is only the second time I've ever seen the movie. I remembered it okay, but so that's how I saw Terminator. I've never seen T3. I never saw Genesis, but I did watch Dark Fate a few months ago and loved it. But that's a separate story. So yeah, this is the second time I've ever seen Terminator. And
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So the reason that we're talking about the Terminator is because frequent guest of the show, Kevin Mostiller, recommended it and wanted to be on, but he's filming this weekend. And he had when he wanted it just for him, but I was like, no, that's going to be episode 100 because episode 1 is RoboCop. And
Makes sense.
I just think it's a fun bookend. So I also think Terminator is this weird thing, as we've already realized. It has been remade, it will be remade, and it also should be remade because of some of the issues that are in this movie. And I think that's really interesting. What was your first, how long had it been since your last rewatch of The Terminator? Prior to did you rewatch the movie for this podcast, Diane?
I did rewatch the movie for this podcast, but I'd also actually I watched the extended version of Aliens and then realized James Cameron really rocks it when he makes sequels.
Yeah.
So then I watched T2, then I watched Dark Fate, then I watched Genesis, then I went back and watched Terminator. So before your podcast, I'd actually watched 4 Terminator films within the last 3 months.
Amazing.
You've done far more research than I have.
Yeah.
I will say that.
And more than Nate's.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really like Terminator films.
I was,
Yeah.
I'm definitely sort of the opposite. I saw Terminator Dark Fate in theaters, and then I saw it again in theaters. I saw it one more time in theaters. I purchased it, and it's the only Terminator movie I think exists in my head. Honestly. I just watch it kind of constantly.
Very good.
Yeah.
And it'll be hard to have this conversation without referring to Terminator Dark Fate, because there's so many things I think that movie does well. And I don't think it did really well, or it's
It didn't do great at the box office, no.
which is a shame because I think it's amazing. But I think you can't have Terminator Dark Fate unless you already have the years and years of Terminator movies. Because the thing Terminator Dark Fate does is this just keeps happening. Mm-hmm. We'll stop one version of this apocalypse from happening, but then humanity just invents another one, and it just keeps happening. And all these other Skynets or whatever they're also called, whatever it's called in Terminator Dark Fate, just keep happening and keep inventing Terminators. It's like convergent evolution. It just keeps happening. And I was like, that's amazing. What a great way to play with the lore.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And I think the reason why Terminator is one of those series that can constantly be redone is because technically we're dealing with the future that knows about the past and is just going back to change everything.
Yeah.
So we can change it as many times as we want, which is why whatever movie we make today is totally going to fit.
But I also
works.
think that's why Genesis fails, aside from the fact that it was bad, and I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either,
My understanding is that it turns its back on that whole history of the franchise, and I don't think it should have done that.
Oh, gosh. I like Genesis.
Oh, do you? That's fine.
I like
It's
Genesis.
Salvation that really destroys the franchise.
Is it?
Oh,
Okay.
gosh, I like
Yeah.
Salvation.
That's the first full Terminator movie I've ever seen.
They just keep trying, to the credit, they keep trying something different. And I think what they try is actually most of the time like kind of fine. I think the problem is that they are always going to live in the shadow of T2, which I think it's fair to say is probably one of the greatest films ever made, just flat out.
One of the things that I think it's interesting because I think you have to pair the Terminator with T2, especially for Sarah Connor. Because, Linda Hamilton does an amazing job, and she's the same character, but she's two completely different people in both movies. And I think that's important, especially when we get to casting, to address that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't know she's walking into an apocalypse. She's just a waitress. And it's fine. We have to respect that. And so that's why I think you have to have the two together.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Well, yeah, I even think, like, when you add in Terminator Dark Fate, it's like Terminator Dark Fate is the end and beginning of a trilogy. You know, it's the Terminator T2 and then Terminator Dark Fate.
Yes.
The other ones are all the things that potentially could have happened. I'm sorry if you haven't seen these movies.
Don't worry about the audience. This is a conversation just for us.
Yes.
if people happen to listen, that's great.
Well, yeah, if you skip T3, if you skip Salvation and Genesis, you haven't missed anything by getting the full story because, you know, Dark Fate kind of goes back and shakes everything up. None of the rest of those things happened.
Yeah.
What I think I like about T3 and Salvation, and I do have a problem with Genesis. Let's just be real. I have a problem. I enjoyed it. But
Not enough dragons.
Yeah. No. But I do think that the greatness of those things is all we know is the end, which is humanity is basically null and void. You know, we don't really exist anymore. We're fighting to exist, but we're not really here anymore. And there's a lot of skulls all over the planet. So many skulls that we're just like constantly trampling.
I mean, the janitorial
nice to see
staff. That's what happens when you don't pay the janitorial staff enough.
Yeah. But, you know, it's nice to see those things actually come to fruition, which you need for T3, T4, and T5. I'm paraphrasing her names now. But, you know, you need those in order to be like, we did end up actually getting to a lot of skulls being on the floor,
Well, it's
and
also
it makes sense.
interesting that there's a lot of skulls because the one woman we see actively die, the one resistance fighter, she gets like obliterated.
Yeah, like
she's
vaporized.
just vaporized. So she didn't leave a skull behind. So I don't know where they got these skulls.
Oh, no, see, they do explain it, right?
Oh, okay.
The machines are constantly evolving. So at first, they were just murdering people and letting them drop dead and walking all over them.
Sure.
And then they're like, you know what? There's a better way to do this without us having to, like, look at skulls forever.
We can't make a bigger mess.
Yeah. Like, hello, we have to live here. I don't want to live with these skulls.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't live where you murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always interesting watching movies in a post-singularity world, just thinking about like what people think like will happen. Like, oh, the singularity happened. I don't know why artificial reality cares about us at all, but I guess they care about us.
I mean, did anyone else while watching this kind of hope for that dystopia versus the boring one that we're actually living in right now?
Yeah.
Was anyone else like, I could go for just like being dead in that universe rather than dealing with this shit now?
That's fair.
Is that just me?
I think that wasn't me. I'll just say that. I don't want to speak for everybody.
I think that's just you.
Okay, good to know.
I think it's fair,
Yeah.
but it hadn't occurred to me.
Okay.
But all right, so we have the movie as it exists. What are some of the things that are like core tenets of the Terminator as it exists now that we need to make sure we save?
Time travel. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, someone's got to go back in time.
There has to
Terminator's
be a
landing.
Terminator,
Yes.
and there has to be a Resistance member from the future coming
Yes.
back
Agreed.
in time. There has to be a bright-eyed but sad character who just needs a life change. Any life change will do at all. You know, in order for her to, or him, to feel good about next steps.
We need them to lose a little bit of agency so that they can take it back.
Oh, I absolutely think we need a cop who doesn't mind that they're drinking cigarette ash. Like, I just feel like we need... I don't know if you guys caught that, but, like, on my rewatch, the guy's like, I put a cigarette in there, and he's just like, slurp, still drinking it. So,
Well, first he said that coffee's 2 hours old. I put a cigarette in it?
yeah.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And
I
I'm like,
didn't recast him, but I agree. We should have
like,
that.
he should be... I mean, that cop is so passionate about his job. He doesn't care. He just needs to stay awake. You know
That's
what I mean? Cigarette, ash, coffee, perfect drink.
Ugh.
You know, it's called Four Loko.
Oh god. Oh no. I think there's a new version now. I don't know what it's called, but
gosh.
someone threatened me with one recently. I was like, oh god, no.
Oh, no.
We need multiple car chases, to topple any Fast and Furious franchise movie, but also, you know, really give you the stakes are high and like maybe our characters might die.
But I think with the car chases, you have to be careful because you have to have them grounded in reality.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
things that made the first Terminator movie so cool was they were crashing cars and they were doing trucks, and it wasn't some CGI sort of all of a sudden the car is flying through a building and then keeps going.
Yeah.
Or like whips around on a rope.
On a rope, it's like hanging by a thread and like goes around a mountain.
Oh god, I don't get me started on those movies. I can't.
No, so I mean I think one of the things that made the Terminator so good was that it was grounded in the reality that existed when they made the film.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm curious, like, for all you guys, would you want to actually just do a flat-out remake of this and ignore everything that happened before, or would you want to continue the ongoing story of Terminator?
I actually think Terminator Dark Fate is a good button on everything that's come before. I think if we're continuing the story, then the expectation will be that we have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton. And I just don't think we can do that. I think we need to recast both of them. Aside from the fact that Kyle Reese specifically says they're infiltration units, and no one is worse at infiltrating anything than the most recognizable guy you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, not very blended with the crowd on that one.
so I think we take inspiration from Terminator, from T2, and from Dark Fate, but I do think we need to start over. I think it should be set now. I don't think we need to go back to the 80s.
Agreed, yeah.
But I also agree that I think it needs to be grounded in that they're not superheroes.
Yep.
He grew up in an apocalypse, and it's lucky that he knows what a car is.
Yep.
She has never been in, like... She's supposed to be in a romantic comedy, and now she's in an action movie. This is not the way her life was supposed to go. But, like, a robot came back from the future. So if there's any, like, use of CGI or crazy tricks, it's just the Terminator that's doing it. And I would say they have to be like, well, that's fucking robots.
I can excuse robot shenanigans. I can't excuse like man-made superhero shenanigans when that is not your universe.
Yes.
And as far as we know, there are no superheroes in this universe. It's just machines we've created to destroy us and us.
Yeah.
So,
I will say in Dark Fate, I don't remember the name of the actress that they send back. Like, they enhance her, and she's like an enhanced human and can
Mackenzie
fight.
Davis.
Thank you. Like, she's great.
Yeah.
And I like what they do, and she is a superhero, but I don't think we should have that. I think, especially for the first one, it's more compelling if it's just like, it's just humans trying to not go extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important. So I think if we're going to be having crazy Fast and Furious car chase tricks, just the Terminator can do it.
That's the point.
I want the car chases to top the Fast and Furious car chases because those are unbelievable, and I want to believe that somebody actually maybe got hurt filming this. If that makes sense.
So you want this to be directed by Quentin Tarantino then?
No.
Oh, absolutely not. No,
Who was the director, the famous director recently who just like had the massive car accidents and they're like, no one got hurt though, and like someone could have. I don't remember who that was.
I'm not sure what that story is specifically, but I think what we're getting at is more like grounded, gritty level action. Like, I'm not saying that David Leitch should be the director on this, but like his style of like very visceral, like stuff is hitting each other. You can feel the impact in the camera.
Yeah.
Sort of
Okay,
thing.
great.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like all of a sudden the fight scenes are cut so fast.
Yes.
It seems like superheroes are fighting.
Okay.
Or like the cars are doing magnificent, amazing things that cars would never be able to do.
Yeah.
So I want like, if the car breaks down, the car breaks down. If the car explodes, the car explodes. But I want to feel like an actual car's exploding.
Mm-hmm.
And I want our two main characters, our Kyle Reese and our Sarah Connor, to be taking damage the entire time. If a car runs into something, they're going to get hurt, and they're going to have to carry that the rest of the movie.
It's been a long time since I've seen an actor have to like take stock of all of their injuries because James Bond just keeps moving. Mm-hmm. He may take like a siesta on an island, but like James Bond keeps moving, and I think like Atomic Blonde, Charlize Theron is constantly being like, "Ooh, I have to patch myself up," and I loved seeing that.
Yeah,
so
she's
much.
like flooded up all the way through it.
Yeah, so it's like I want to see Sarah Connor's face almost unrecognizable. Because she's just been going through so much and she has no skills.
And that is one of the things I liked in the movie, of the moment when Kyle Reese is collapsed. He's done. And then she just like stand up, soldier, do the thing. And it's like a little bit of who she's going to become, and it's something that's going to work. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that moment.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, and I think, at this point now, Terminator, it's an action franchise, but this movie is more of a horror almost all the way through.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't big... I mean, there's like a few action set pieces, but the whole thing's like it's the looming threat the entire time. Even the way the finale is structured, like you think it's done and it keeps coming back. You think it's done, it keeps coming back. Like it really leans that horror element of it, and I think that idea is maybe worth like gravitating towards as well. It's like it should be scary and intimidating more than necessarily like like it's suspenseful more than just like, oh my god, look at this crazy action.
Yeah. Plus we don't really think of it this way now, but like there are definitely elements of body horror when they needed to have like the puppet Arnold Schwarzenegger that tears out his own eye or like opens up his arm. Like we're kind of used to seeing that stuff now, but at the time it's like, oh my god.
I was not used to seeing that. Fine, he's missing an eye, but actual robot Arnold Schwarzenegger like unnerved me so much while I was watching.
Like when like all the skin is gone and it's just the robot skeleton.
No, it's just like when his face and he like turns back and he's like clearly an animatronic.
Oh yeah,
I can't like it's so
that
gross.
that was definitely deep within the uncanny valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. Like we'll do better than that. Like because now we can use CGI, but like that was very strange. And I was like, oh, that's not Schwarzenegger.
I was watching it and I was like, am I watching like House of Wax or something? Like it's gross. Like this is a scary movie.
It is.
That's
it really
disgusting.
is scary.
And like I'm having nightmares about dummy Arnold Schwarzenegger going like rah, rah, with his whole body because he's not real and he's like staring at me with his creepy eye that he just ripped. It was nasty.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
But it does work to the film because I mean the Terminator itself is a cyborg.
Yeah.
So to see sort of like...
No, he's not. Do you know the difference between a cyborg and an android, Dianne?
Don't they call him a cybernetic organism?
They do. They're wrong.
Oh, okay. Well.
Okay.
So we'll get this right.
So a cyborg is a human that becomes more robotic. So the character from comics and everything, Cyborg, is a cyborg. He was human and now is robot.
Okay.
Human to robot is cyborg. Robot to human is android.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I think we can also like acknowledge
Cyborg is
that.
cooler.
Yeah, one, Cyborg sounds cool. Also, you can tell like,
but it's wrong.
When they wrote this, people did not know these things to the point where like Kyle Reese has to explain like it's microprocessor controlled because it's 1984 and people don't just understand what that technology is. Yes. So.
But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Continue.
No, but what I was saying was it looks unbelievably creepy when the head turns with the sunglasses or with the eyes there and he like sits there. And it's unbelievably creepy. But I think it works really well to service the film because when all the skin comes off and you see the endoskeleton, and he just kind of keeps coming and coming and coming. You're just going, this is not human, and it is coming after me.
Yeah,
and it's a feeling that we get a lot these days, But at the time, that was scary as hell.
Yeah.
And
that's something that I think we need to do differently than, say, Dark Fate. I love Dark Fate, but the way the Terminator works in that movie only works because we've seen all these Terminators before.
And we've seen the evolution.
Yeah. I think it needs to be this first Terminator where it is a robotic skeleton in flesh, which is disgusting, but you're like, it needs to start human and become less human. Like, even though the Uncanny Valley thing wasn't on purpose, it still should give us this, like, oh my god, like, revelatory of not human as we progress further. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
Especially as it doesn't register pain. And we're seeing, like, that should hurt, you should not be doing that. Oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah.
I would love for our other characters to see that more often, because I do think all of those moments were just for the audience.
Ooh,
and I wish Sarah Connor had have gotten a little bit more time to stare at Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, and be like, oh my gosh, you're not human. Because I do think, anybody actively staring, that whole punk scene in the beginning with Bill Paxton, and that's not a human.
Love that it's Bill Paxton. It's so random.
It's that's not a human, and I wish there was something to, because it's also the first iteration, so it should be a little you haven't perfected it just yet.
Yeah.
And except he's passable until the action scenes, and I kind of want people to be like, why are you so weird? You unnerve me, please don't stand behind me, or anything like that, because I really do think our characters were not as scared until the perfect moment. I'm using air quotes.
Yes.
Perfect moment to be scared. And I think it would be scarier for them if they did look at him for a little bit longer.
Well, this is actually my problem with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the role, which is it's twofold. One, he's perfect for the role, and the other one is he's unbelievably wrong for the role.
Yeah, exactly. He's the most robotic man. He's the most terrifying Terminator man you've ever seen, but at the same time, you immediately see him.
He's painfully conspicuous.
Yeah. The Terminator that comes in and infiltrates the army, their bunker.
Yeah.
When they're in the future.
Yeah.
And he just looks like some regular old schmo.
He's still jacked, but yes.
He's not as jacked. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not as jacked, and he's got a beard, and he looks kind of scuzzy, and he kind of all of a sudden he just mows everyone down.
I don't remember him having a beard.
It's kind of scruffy.
Yeah.
Was he?
He looked more quote unquote human.
Yeah.
Than
he looked more
Schwarzenegger
human.
does.
I remember him being a
clean shaven with a little bit of a longer hair.
Yeah, I remember him not wearing a shirt.
Yeah, he's not wearing a shirt, and he's you got a blanket on, and he just smashes through people and starts shooting.
Because I remember thinking that the security system in the future was terrible. It's all of a sudden you hear the dogs going nuts, and they're oh hey, you're a Terminator. Well, you're inside our base killing us. Well, this was a bad plan.
But Diane, I get your saying. Your point's he is so perfect as this unstoppable killing machine, but he just stands out so much that it loses a lot of credibility almost now. Well, obviously he's a killer. Look at him.
Right.
And so, yes, I agree. And as you mentioned that, so I think that the human that we cast for this role should be a reasonably decent human-looking person, but I don't think it should be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can go and you could cast John Cena or Dave Bautista, but I don't think that's exactly what you want for this.
No.
Nope. But if anything, I think that it should be looks human and normal, so that way you have more opportunities to make them look less human and normal. Literally, if the robotic skeleton inside starts expanding and stretching and pulling the skin and making them get bigger when we get to later in the movie, and it's he needs to become more imposing and a bigger threat, I think that can push the uncanny valley even more and to be way more unsettling. You literally, have any of you ever seen American Werewolf in London?
Yes.
I have not.
So there's the moment when he is transforming into the werewolf, and you're seeing his body stretch and contort into the werewolf. Mm-hmm. And it won a bunch of awards for practical effects and stuff at the time, but it's this incredibly unnerving thing of watching the human body take shapes it's not supposed to take. And I think that's what we should be expecting from our Terminator in this.
I agree. I think as scary as, Big Arnold is in the first Terminator, the Terminators of the other following movies, I think, are infinitely scarier because they could just be anybody.
Yeah.
It's I look at them and I go, he's got a very serious face, but he's a cop. So that makes sense to me. Oh gosh, it's suddenly terrifying. And I think that's sort of what's missing from Arnold, because he's either a big protective guy or he's a big, I'm going to smash your face in guy. And so I don't know which one he is, but I automatically err on he's going to protect me and hope for the best.
I think that's an example of what Cameron learned when he got to T2. Robert Patrick looks much more normal. He's unsettling, but you wouldn't immediately think of him as being inhuman. And he just blends in so much better. And he also can act like a human. That's one thing that this Terminator never does. I think also doesn't quite work. Is I find that Schwarzenegger's performance in this, his face is very robotic, but his body moves like a person through a lot of it. I don't think he had gotten the fine tuning of the actual physicality down. And I think it's much more interesting if that person could actually put on a facade and pretend to be a person and have a conversation rather than just being this weird intimidating robot who threatens people all the time. Like an infiltration robot to be able to like learn things through a conversation like a person would do it and actually blend in.
Yeah.
I think also if we start the movie, if it's present day or even a few years in our future, but from this future versus being in the 80s where we didn't have any technology, our robot automatically is a better infiltration system.
Oh,
yeah.
Because social media.
But the other issue is that like there was a moment in this movie when Kyle leaves Sarah Connor alone in the room, and then she has the call from her mother, but obviously the Terminator killed her mother in order to like hear the voice and do all the things. And it was like, well, why didn't Kyle Reese say, "Don't answer the phone; they can sound like anybody"? But it occurs to me he would have no reason to know that they can do that.
Yeah.
That is literally an ability that they would like. There are no phones in the future. It makes perfect sense that he wouldn't know about it. But that's also really interesting. Just like watching Arnold Schwarzenegger speak with someone else's voice, I find, and then like when I watched Terminator Dark Fate, I forgot they could do that. And there's a moment when the Terminator does it in that movie, and it's like, oh right, a robot can sound like anybody, and stuff like that.
No. And Mimi, I think you bring up a good point about like social media.
Yeah.
Because what I find so funny about watching this now is both the Terminator and Kyle from Arco like use the phone book to try and track down all the different Sarah Connors and like are going through like killing them systematically one by one.
It's a plot point.
It is a plot point. It's like neither of them know what she looks like, and if you're setting this now, that wouldn't be the case. Like you would know exactly what that person looks like and exactly what their habits are because all that information is available.
But just as a thing, though, Kyle does know what she looks like because he had the photograph from John Connor.
Okay, right. So yeah, he knew, but the Terminator didn't.
The Terminator had no idea what she looked like.
Yeah, no idea. And I feel like you can't ignore that now. It's like they even say at one point, like, oh, like most of the records have been destroyed. I think it's much more interesting is in the future, like the robots actually still have access to all this data, but the humans don't. So maybe the humans only have like an old picture, but the robot knows exactly what she looks like, is actually where she is, how to find her.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
I think that comes in with Dark Fate a lot.
I think
he uses a lot of technology. He uses. I mean, Sarah Connor at one point says, "We're in a place where there's a camera everywhere. You're always on camera." And then there's at least 2 instances where the Terminator goes in to data centers and breaks into them and downloads data and is literally just tracking.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of images until he finds the one he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't mind for our remake that our Terminator is a little bit not on that level and just working with he or she already has from the future versus like being able to go, oh yes, I definitely, because I do think there's this iteration of Terminators that are happening where the first Terminator could not have done that even if we had the technology for it, versus this Terminator in Dark Fate who knows how everything works, is from a different future, not the future that we've been seeing constantly, but is from a different future and knows how we have collected data. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm making any sense.
I think it makes sense because I think I agree with you. I think it's more interesting and more compelling if the Terminator has to be active instead of just sitting at a computer terminal pulling information and like has to go look and find. And you can even make it a plot point of Kyle Reese saying, when they were connecting to the Wi-Fi, we were able to fight back because we just hacked into the Terminators. And that could literally be like, for our sequel, that's how we got whatever the Terminator that's going and protecting Sarah Connor and John Connor in the future. They just hacked it. Like, they just, like, it was connected to a Wi-Fi network, and you just, like, if someone's on my Wi-Fi network, they can hack all my machines.
The Terminator kept its Bluetooth on.
Yeah.
So they're able to jump in there.
Legitimately, yeah. Like, literally, that, like, if there's one skill that would be necessary in a robot apocalypse, it's being able to hack the robots.
And also, as of 2021, we are infinitely more prepared to hack a robot than we were in 1984.
Yeah. What's the term for a computer that's never been connected to the internet?
Standalone?
No.
I think there's a specific term, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's like they use the term in, like, I think I know the term from Newsroom.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They need, like, a computer that's never been connected to the internet and can't connect to the internet because that way it can't be hacked or something like that. And that's the only way you can plug in this flash drive and it's got all the information. I don't remember what the term is, but like something like that. So like this Terminator, like you would have to physically plug into the Terminator in order to hack it, and like
right,
which makes it difficult but also doable. And I like difficult but doable.
Yes,
yeah. And by difficult, I mean I could die.
And it's something the machines would have learned, right. Because if the humans then killed the first wave of Terminators because they hacked them and then blew them all up, machines were like, maybe we can't have them connected to Wi-Fi. So all of a sudden, the Terminators are all given their mission and then just let go into the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would take care of like the singular fascination of having to kill Sarah Connor, because that's its only mission, and it can't be upgraded.
Right, like it only has what it came with from the future.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be able to just start connecting to smartphones and track her down that way, but it has to know how to find her given what it already knows.
I also think we don't need tons of Sarah Connors because we need him going to get whatever tools he's going to use to murder Sarah Connor, but we also need him going to get a cell phone or anything to connect to the internet. We need him doing all of these other things. So he will still have a weird kill count, and it'll be in the city, and it'll be terrifying. And I assume, because it's a woman lead, that there must be a parking lot scene where she's just walking around a parking lot by herself all scared and terrified, because that's one of the most terrifying things you can do as a woman in LA. So, when you have these scenes, there's already enough reason for her to be scared that there's a serial killer out there, but it actually ends up being not a cyborg.
We can also do the...
And
Reese, yeah.
You can also definitely do the thing where she's holding her keys with each of the keys between the individual fingers, like, just as a means of... just to show how scared she is.
Yeah.
And it could even come up later when she finally does that to the Terminator and it does not do anything because
Just
it's a
bends
robot.
all the keys.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's
really
terrifying.
Good.
Yeah.
What are you made of, man?
Yeah.
You're not human.
So we've talked about our Terminator, and I think we all kind of have an idea of what we want our Terminator to be. Who do we want our Kyle Reese to be? Because
I'm raising my hand. I've got issues.
yeah, the Kyle Reese in this movie is not good. Please, Mimi, fix him for us.
I don't mind that Kyle Reese is just this, lone stalkerish puppy, who's got a photo of the woman he's supposed to be with.
Of his friend's mom.
Of his friend's mom, or his idol's mom, not even his friend, you know?
Yeah.
I don't mind that, that's his backstory, but he's creepy as soon as he makes it to present day. I'm using air quotes again, in 1984. And I think it would have been wonderful if he had have tried to pick her up in some sort of romantic kind of way and been like, let's hang out, I want to take you to dinner, or anything like that. Because he just sort of comes out of nowhere and saves her life, thank you, but also you're still terrifying and creepy, and yet I'm still going to have sex with you. And it just feels a little bit unbelievable.
Yeah. There's not chemistry there in any sort of way. And the other way, without that, and then having the circumstances be like, why the hell would you sleep with this guy?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I would love if he got there the day before the Terminator, or anything to be like, I was checking around and I said, let's go on this date. I went on this date and then the Terminator came, and then I could show her I'm actually here to protect you. Because then I'm like, I already have this rapport with you. I already think you're hot and maybe considering going to bed with you. But then also, you just protected me from this crazy thing where my key knuckles did not work. And should have if it were human, please explain. And then we can have a deeper connection. But they don't have a connection. It's just, I feel sorry that you grew up poor and there was rats and you had to eat them. And here... come to my bosom. It feels very weird.
It felt like the language the movie was trying to speak to us was that we're not supposed to be sure which one of them is the actual threat. Except one of them's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he walked in and killed the punk bikers. So it's like, oh, well, we're not supposed to be sure, or she's not supposed to be sure, but
we're sure.
We're sure immediately. It shouldn't matter. And we get it. And it felt like it was trying to have its cake and eat it too, but don't eat this cake.
I also think there's a lot of doubt that they're casting, even after she's, sort of with him already. They're in the car, they have the whole conversation about your child in the future and blah, blah, blah. They get arrested, and then he's, looking crazy in the camera and being like, Sarah Connor! And, screaming her name. And I'm like, yeah, see, I think that's terrifying, because I would go on, I wouldn't, but cross your fingers. I would go on a date with a guy, and then he could turn out to be totally crazy, which is a whole other layer that she would have to deal with, which would also sort of endear her to him in a way, in the future. But as of right now, there's just this crazy person who told me to get in his car, and he still seems crazy, and he's never stopped seeming crazy.
And he keeps grabbing you.
And he keeps grabbing at me, and he's screaming my name on the screen, and please come to my bosom, sir. I've always wanted to sleep with you. You didn't even put your jacket on me when I was cold.
Yeah,
He didn't. You're right.
Doesn't do him. This guy's not chivalrous.
Yeah, no chivalry in the future,
He's
clearly.
just scary.
There's also a personality issue of if you're in an apocalypse, it's going to be a certain kind of person who's able to get through an apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
He did not seem like that kind of person.
No.
He seemed like the kind of person who might have a mental breakdown and then just, like, wouldn't be able to get away until, like, the robots took him. Like, you're going to have some sort of, like, dark humor, like, at least we're not on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
I think you need a little bit more
Charisma?
well, one, charisma too, but also it's like confidence out of that character. Like he has survived a lot, and I mean, like it's a little bit murky as to how much this movie fully understands or acknowledges like the looped nature of the time travel. Like it's heavily implying that John knew that Kyle was his dad and sent him back.
Yeah,
which is a little bit weird to start with, but it's like you kind of got to believe that this guy would also get picked because he's competent and capable. Too, and not just because, like, well, I know you're going to bang my mom, so you have to go back. Like, well, also, like, I know that you're actually going to be able to protect her. So
I honestly think, like, based on the message Kyle Reese gives to Sarah, like, you have to survive, I think John Connor knows Kyle Reese is just my dad. Like, he's not supposed to protect my mom. He's going to die there, but he does have to bang her, or else I can't be here to help save humanity.
Yeah.
He's so, like, useless. I don't know. He's useless. He's not funny. He's not charismatic. Well, he's just angry constantly. And I get it. You grew up and you had to eat rats. Like, I understand.
He's not recyclable. He's single use.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which sucks. And I think I would just like there to be a story where he is recyclable.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Where we care that he dies.
I want to care that he dies. Because when he died, I was like, well, that seems about right.
Yeah.
It took this long?
Yeah, he doesn't have a place in this world.
You know, it's not John Connor and Kyle Reese are like man in the efforts. It's none of that. It's all John Connor sent me back.
Yeah.
I would be even more interested if like Kyle Reese is expecting to die. Like there's that moment when he's being interviewed by the police and they're like, well, so you can't go back? And like he goes, no. When it would be like, no, this is a one-way trip.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you were fully anticipating dying. And the idea of someone who like keeps like throwing themselves into situations because they're expecting to die and then not, like, actually living of, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with myself now.
There's actually a cut scene in Terminator where Kyle and Sarah are sort of by a river. They're sort of, whatever, they're by a river. And Kyle literally says, I'm not supposed to be here. And freaks the fuck out.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, like has a mental breakdown?
Well, pretty much, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to see this beauty. I'm not supposed to see this world. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Oh, so he's like confused as to why.
No, he's just confused as the whole world. You know, he's looking at a world that doesn't exist in his.
It's extreme culture shock.
Yeah, and he's just like, I'm not supposed to be here.
That's interesting.
See, they took all the humanity out of him and just left. Rats. I'm sorry, I keep talking about the rats. Just they find the one rat and he's like, I got dinner, and I'm like. I'd be dead. That's okay.
Yeah, no, it's
fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
You reach a point and you're like, nope, this is it. This is my end.
We did it.
But that's super interesting to me. Like, because they always talk about how, like, time travel stories, like, you bring up someone from the 1600s to today, they would not be able to handle it. But I imagine the same is true going the other way. I like that. Because there's going to be so many even if he, like, was 4 years old when the future ended, like, just the idea of an entire world, like, there's so many things you're going to forget or not know how to deal with. Like, just the idea of a sliding glass door might freak him out because it's like a robotic door and he might try to shoot the door. And
I think it also humanizes him.
Yeah.
And I think that was, as Mimi said,
he's lacking humanity.
Yeah, they took out the humanity for Kyle, and I think you're absolutely right on that.
If you have a character who's coming after Sarah Connor who has no humanity, and then you have Sarah Connor who's like borderline either or, you know, flip a switch. Honestly, she's like pretty well adjusted to all of the situations. I'm like, okay, that girl has like a ripper switch, you know, she's like, now I can be the badass, now I have to be soft, you know, something happened. And then you have Kyle Reese, who's supposed to be the ultimate opposite of the Terminator. I just want him to feel things. I want him to feel things and experience things, and I think Sarah Connor would be attracted to that because everybody apparently she's dated so far, I'm using air quotes again, you know, is a pice of crap, you know?
He leaves her alone on a Friday night.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, can't make it. I'm sleeping with someone else.
Although I enjoyed her two friends, like her roommate and the guy.
Ginger and what's his name?
Ginger and Matt.
And let me tell you, that first pickup phone call of first thing I'm going to do, let me tell you, I don't know if you paid attention, he did not say one thing about himself. It was all about pleasing Ginger, and we need to keep that in.
Yeah. I recast them both.
Yeah. They're on my list.
They're on my list.
My only note I have for Matt is just he never pleased a woman. Like, that's the vibe I got of him. Was it like...
No. He pleased her so much, she was like, yes, baby, listen to whatever music you want as I go to town on you.
See, I had the opposite take on it. Like, she's just like so not into. She's like, I'm just gonna listen to my music and you're gonna do your thing, and it just the whole thing can be very weird.
We'll make it better.
There are many opinions that I would trust on this particular topic, Chris. Yours is not one of them.
Fair enough.
I had the impression that basically he would go to whatever rhythm she wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to have like the music going, he's feeling the beat or whatever. I mean, those headphones weren't that good those days. That music would come trickling out.
Yeah. She was clearly obsessed with the music and him and was like, I don't want you to be a part of this. This is just for me. He was doing everything for her. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine.
That's fair. It was me and other gay man watching this. We're like, I don't get what's going on here. So I'm very confused.
What was going on is she got exactly what she asked for and a phone call explaining everything he was going to do first.
And their relationship, they both got fridged and I was sad about it, but like they were great. They were just fun. Like, and the Terminator is going to kill people, and the Terminator needed to kill someone that the person cares about. I get it. These two were good, and I liked their dynamic. So yes, I recast them.
Great. I'm glad I wasn't alone.
Yeah,
it's like they need dating parts.
and especially when the dynamic that the two of them also have with Sarah, I thought was super sweet. It's like, oh, you are not a free floating entity who's waiting for a plot to happen to you. You're a real person living in the world. Mm-hmm. And I always find it interesting and annoying when the movie is just like, this person didn't exist, and now the movie happened, and now they exist. And I think that I literally wrote a pilot about this, about someone whose job it is to go be the sixth friend for 2 episodes, and then they go and return back to the void. Mm-hmm. Because whenever someone's dating any of the friends, they don't have any of their own friends. Right. They're just a free agent. Yeah. And then they return to everything. And Sarah Connor wasn't. She was living a full life, and then the future happened to her. And it's weird. And I don't know. I found it an unnecessary moment of humanity, but a deeply appreciated moment of humanity.
That's fair.
But yeah, so Kyle Reese so we know how our Terminator, we have our Kyle Reese in terms of who we need him to be, of gallows humor, a little bit more dynamic, culture shock. I think those are all very important and good. So let's talk about Sarah Connor. Do we want her to also still be a waitress? What is important to us about our Sarah Connor? For me, the only thing that's important is that I don't want her to be a badass yet. I don't even want to necessarily put hints that she's going to be a badass in the future. I don't think that's important. I think this needs to be someone whose life is completely interrupted and is not prepared for this at all.
I agree to an extent. I think my personal Sarah Connor is she's not a badass in terms of, I know guns and I know kung fu or anything like that, and she's definitely not prepared for any of the events of the future. But I think if we're doing this movie now, or we're even doing it 8 years from now, if it takes place then, there's so many things that are happening in the world. I want her to have her ears to the ground, and I want her to have a good head on her shoulders and a great way to understand how to trust people, which I do not believe Sarah Connor from the Terminator currently has. She's very gullible, and I'm just there's no possible way this woman is going through 2021, 2028 any of these times at all.
You don't want your Sarah Connor to be instantly convinced by her mother's voice on the phone?
I'm not saying that I want her to be suspect of everyone, but I just feel so many things are happening in the world. I think she goes, a little bit more often than this character does. She just buys in,
just quickly. Crying to the cops. Do you think he's crazy?
Yeah. And it's just you listen to his whole story and you fully bought in, and now you're buying into some other story. Yeah. Because it works for you. I just think maybe she stands up for people. Maybe maybe she is a waitress and she stands up for her fellow waitress whenever a guy tries to smack a butt or whatever. But she's I want her to be strong on her own. I just don't want her to be strong how we need her to be.
Right. She's not naive to the world she lives in, but she's also not yet prepared for the future, because who the fuck would be?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our current Sarah Connor is naive to everything. Yeah. And oh god, she got shot on by a bird, and she'd be like, oh gosh, I guess I gotta figure out what to, like, completely fall apart. And then it's like thrust into this world. She's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me.
Right, like, this version of Sarah Connor wouldn't, when she suspects that someone's following her, she wouldn't just, like freak out. Like, she would kind of already know how to handle the situation to some degree. Like, she's actually capable of, like, protecting herself up to the point of being faced with an unstoppable killing machine, and then no one could be prepared for that.
Yeah.
I mean, she might have the keys in one hand, but she's got the can of mace in the other hand.
Yes.
And she's just ready to go.
Yeah.
And she might, she might have done, I don't know, some sort of, like, fun little martial arts when she goes to her gym and gets going. She's, good on social media. She knows what's going on in the world. She's active in things.
Yeah.
I think the problem with with Sarah Connor and the Terminator is I think she's very passive.
She's very passive and she's not a part of anything.
No.
Yeah.
Like, without this boyfriend taking her out on Friday night, she's like, I'm just going to do stuff on my own. And it's like, good for you, girl, but at the same time, it's not like she's like, well, I'll take myself out, let me get dressed. She dresses down. And I just think that in this day and age, we don't do that. If we're like, I'm going to go out and nobody's going with me, I'm still getting dressed up, other people will see me.
Yeah.
So she's a little meek and quiet and very passive. And I just think there's no possible way that this incredibly passive person who's just letting things happen to her would allow this huge thing to happen to her and then completely change her whole identity to get to Terminator Dark Fate.
You need to see that spark in there.
Yeah.
You need to believe that she could do what she's eventually going to have to do.
Yes.
On the other hand, Terminator 2 does a very good way of explaining
how
all
she
of
gets
that.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but obviously,
But let's pretend like we don't have a
I
T2
know.
coming.
I
know.
And this is just our
It's so hard
Terminator.
because it's so much better.
So good.
But I want to steal something else from Dark Fate.
Mm-hmm.
So in Dark Fate, when Linda Hamilton is approaching, I don't remember the name of the main actress, she's like, it's always about your womb, your womb, your womb, your womb. It's just whatever you're going to put into the world. And then, like, the Mackenzie Davis, you said was her name? It's like, no, it's her.
Yeah.
We're here for her. She's the one. And it's like, wait, really? It's not just because she is a vessel for the future Messiah? And I thought that was super interesting, especially because Linda Hamilton is always like, oh, I had to protect John Connor, and then failed. It's like, because she's never really mattered. It's just what she's about to provide. And that was always really bad. But Dark Fate flips it and goes, no, this woman is the woman, like, this is she's the one.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have a blend of that, of they're coming back to get Sarah Connor because of John Connor, but they also don't realize that it was also Sarah Connor. Like, even like the machines themselves are misogynistic.
I like the idea, because I wrote this down when I was writing notes before I ripped off a page of my notes. But I like the idea that John Connor could send Kyle Reese back to protect Sarah Connor because Sarah Connor is actively needed in the future and wasn't necessarily protected the first time.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea that, like, we know Kyle Reese is going to create John Connor. Like, he knows when he sends him back. But the whole reason to bring him back in this particular moment is to make sure she can survive everything to be at that point later on in the future, because we need Sarah Connor. I like the idea that Sarah Connor is needed as a person and not just a womb. That was my favorite part of Terminator Dark Fate. I love the, like, she said it the entire movie, like, you want your womb.
Yeah.
kind of constantly.
Basically.
And then Mackenzie Foy's like, no, finally, at the end of the movie. But it's, did I say Mackenzie Foy? That's wrong.
Mackenzie Davis.
So-
Mackenzie David.
let me, I just had an idea. Let me float this and see how it appeals to everybody. The Terminator and Kyle Reese come back to this moment because Sarah Connor is already pregnant. Like, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, it doesn't matter. But she is already pregnant with whoever is going to be John Connor. Because just the fact that all this is happening is so, like, random and suspect. It's just, like, the fact that the right sperm still made it to the egg to make John Connor is insane to me. And that's just, like, my one bit of, like, I can never buy into this just because it's too...
Perfect.
Yeah, well, there's two different kinds of, like, time travel. There's multiverse theory, and then there's, like, fixed fate, and then that's the one with, like, no free will. And then, like, and Terminator goes back and forth between both. But, like, it's... Something happens to Sarah Connor, and she ends up dying in childbirth, and then the John Connor character becomes all of this, and John Connor sends her back because we need her, because she would have been something.
Some
I don't know.
catalyst.
So,
Yeah.
I think...
But no, that doesn't work either.
I think along those lines, because one of the problems I have with the way this movie pans out, it's like, it basically says that Kyle Reese always came back to the past. This always happened, which means, like, this is always going to happen. So we've kind of proven that the future doesn't change. So like, why are they spending all this time trying to send people back? I think what might be interesting is if Kyle comes back because he's been told like this is kind of awkward, but like you are my father. Like my mom always told the story. You came back in time to save her or whatever, and then before they can actually have sex, he dies. So now all of a sudden he's been told his entire life he's the father of John Connor. This was supposed to be when John Connor is like conceived, and then it doesn't happen, and now it's up to Sarah to like, okay, well, I need to do this going forward because all of a sudden, like,
I love the wiping out of John Connor.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Maybe it doesn't mean that couldn't happen down the line, but like the kid that everyone says it's like this is supposed to happen, so this kid's created doesn't happen, and so now it's like, well, I guess it's up to me, and like that's the drive forward.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can he be through like 90% of the movie before he dies? Though?
Kyle Reese?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love the idea
absolutely.
of them like flirting a lot and like it's gonna happen. Well, they won't. They and the answer is no because he dies.
Right. And, like at some point, like they like he even kind of awkwardly says like he kind of admits like this is kind of weird, but like.
I like the idea that their
supposed-
whole banter could be based around the fact that like I'm
Yeah.
supposed to impregnate
And,
you.
and it's
she's
like, it's always about to happen, and then like something goes wrong, the Terminator shows up, something like that, and at the very end, like again, the very end, you're like, well, when's this gonna happen?
When are they gonna bone?
Exactly.
When he's dead.
When are they gonna fuck? Oh, they don't.
It also really builds into Diane's idea of him not feeling like he belongs in this time, and like the entire journey of the movie could be him finding a place and finding, like possibly even with Sarah, of like finding acceptance, living in a time that is not his, and like all of a sudden becoming more comfortable being here, and then he dies, which makes it even more tragic. And now all of a sudden, oh my god, the future is even more in jeopardy.
Yeah.
But actually, to go with what Mimi was saying earlier, you could have let's say in the future, like they can hack anything. So let's say they hack the past. So Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor go on a date or get to know each other over like OkCupid or Bumble or wherever the hell they get to know each other. So when he comes to the past, they actually go on a couple dates, and so she knows him. He's just waiting for the Terminator to appear. So he's actually already integrated himself. Like, granted, it's kind of stalkery, but he's also
But that's what we've got already.
Yeah.
So it's not too.
This movie is built on a premise of stalkery.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I mean, that way, there's actually a budding relationship that's happening even before we start the movie.
I love that transcends time.
Even more importantly, if we're going to be playing with the stalkery aspect of it, they can go on a date or something, or they can be about to bone after the first attack. Like, oh, everyone's like at a 10 or something, and then Kyle Reese has to go, I have to stop this because I've not been honest with you. Let me tell you more information.
Yeah.
And he stops them from having sex, and now he'll die with regret, because if they'd had sex then, she'd have become pregnant with John Connor, but he couldn't do it because it was wrong and under false pretenses.
I love all of this. This is the movie I totally wanted from the Terminator. I never got because men.
Yeah. We're not great.
We're the worst.
Some of you are great. I said some.
Okay. But something like that. So are we happy with that more arc for John Connor, for Sarah, so no John Connor, and that's how we break this story apart from all other Terminators?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yes. This is a really great, moment too, because it's almost like it can play off the idea that all of these other movies have in fact happened. Because the one thing that both Genesis and Dark Fate do is they go back and try to erase things from the beginning. You know? So Genesis goes back to
because they're trying to kill the mom instead of trying to kill the dad.
Right. And then Dark Fate goes back after T2 to kill John Connor. And that's the reason why we get this new character who's going to be the new John Connor. So I love the idea that Sarah Connor is our John Connor. Yeah. And that we're just going back again to be like,
and
none of this happened.
And that motivates her for whatever our sequel is of now she has to, and that's even more reason for her to be going through and doing all this different training and becoming the badass that she does in the second movie.
Yeah.
Well, the machine's own actions create the exact enemy they didn't want to create.
Yeah.
The actual person who's going to be able to stop them because they're unstoppable still in the future.
Yeah.
So I love the idea that Sarah Connor is going to be this actual catalyst for the machines, and it's their fault.
And this is a crazy theory for a second movie that I don't think we should go into right now. But my crazy theory for a second movie is that they keep sending Terminators back to try to get her, and then she starts hacking them, and she turns them onto her side because now she picked up the skills in order to hack the Terminators, until finally they send one that's liquid metal that you can't hack.
Right.
Oh,
and now all of a sudden she's got her army of Terminators that she that came back to kill her, but she commandeered, and now it's like, uh-oh, they figured me out. Crap.
Terminator 3 is called Terminatrix.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm into
No,
it.
it's actually called that.
Oh, is it?
Well, it's Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, but there was the Terminatrix. I remember that during the publicity and stuff.
Because she was a model.
Yeah, she runs around in leather the whole time.
Yeah.
High heels.
Well, then they did the Sarah,
It's red leather.
then they did the Sarah
Yes.
Connor Chronicles, and it's Summer Glau.
Yeah.
I think we've got...
I think we're happy with our movie.
Yeah, also, I'm just going to put this out there. My Kyle Reese is kind of perfect for our new Kyle Reese, so...
Oh, that's
Ooh.
Saying that.
Great, I'm into it. All right, let's talk casting.
Okay.
Oh, who are the characters that we should cast? Should we have casted the criminal psychologist?
I did.
Okay. And the main cop? I
did.
cast as well.
I thought
did.
about casting the main cop, but I was like, do we really need to focus on cops in the movie? And so I ended up not recasting him, but I'm perfectly happy to. We need to have someone drink cigarettes.
Yeah.
I recast the therapist because the therapist is in all 3 movies. He's in 1, 2, and 3.
Agreed.
And so I thought that'd be a little bit of a, like, somebody's like, I'm incredulous about what's happening. I'm a dick. So I had Sarah Connor, the Terminator, Kyle Reese, Ginger, Matt, therapist, writer-director.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the cop, I guess, which I don't have, but you
Traxler.
Yeah, great.
I just did the main 3, but it sounds like you guys got all this other stuff covered. So.
Well,
We got you back.
Yep, we're there.
Yeah, I'll be back for you.
someone had to say it. All right, great. Then let's start with Sarah Connor, the non-titular character, and yet the most important one. I'll go first for this, and then we'll go around. So it was important to me to get someone who is sweet, but with potential to be a badass. And I went back and forth. And, like, my initial thought had been, I think her name's Dakota Johnson, the woman from 50 Shades of Grey. I thought she would have been fun. I think she's a little bit more of a one-for-one of kind of the Sarah Connor we already had. So I went with someone who is sweet in another direction. She is kind of more well-known right now for doing voiceover. She's had bit roles and guest stars on, like, NCIS and this, that, the other thing, but now she's the main character on The Owl House. She was also in the Carmen Sandiego animated show. This actress is named Sarah Nicole Robles. This may involve phone searching.
Thank God for IMDb. All right.
Basically. But basically, she's a sweet actress who's very good, very fun, but, like, you could see the potential of, like, well, if she got put through the Marvel program, she also could be jacked someday. But, like, that's not what we want right now. Right now, we just want someone who is sweet and independent, but also informed.
Okay. Interesting.
And someone with a Hispanic background is probably going to be a little bit more informed than a white lady.
A little bit.
Little bit.
Little bit.
Arguably. I mean,
lot of it.
who can say?
Yeah,
So
people know what they know, okay?
yeah. But so that's, I thought, would be a fun choice. Diane, who did you have?
I cast a white lady.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have a
let's
problem
go
with
put that
that.
out
That
there.
might be right.
I put Saoirse Rowan
Oh, Saoirse
Oh,
Ronan.
yeah, Saoirse
Yeah.
Oh, I
Ronan.
love her.
Yeah, she's great.
because she's got the ability to be very sort of every type woman, and then if she needed to be a badass, she's got the capacity in her to be that badass. So I
think
wanted a
that's fair.
Sarah where I could actually, like, feel that she could become a badass.
I think that's fair. I think that's a good choice.
I feel that. I have a little problem with that casting, if only because I do think Saoirse plays annoying too well.
Okay.
And it would be a little hard for me to rally. Like, every movie, I know I'm supposed to like her, but I'm like, your character's annoying. I don't know if she's choosing the roles or if that's what she's adding to it. I was hoping this person would be maybe a little bit more liked. I
Well,
guess.
Okay.
who did you have?
Okay.
Who is more liked?
Okay, I couldn't decide between two, but I'll just say one.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of which one I should say. Zoe Kravitz.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
thought, like, Zoe Kravitz plays, like, the earth and, like, gotta protect anybody or any small person very well, but also very much could be a fighter. And, like, we'll see with
Oh, yeah, that's right. She's new Catwoman.
She's new Catwoman.
Yeah.
To bring it full circle.
Was Zoe Kravitz who you cast as the
No.
lead in our Catwoman remake?
No, I think it was Sophie Patella.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Sophia
that
Patel's
was
right.
great. I like Zoe Kravitz too because I think about her performance in
Big Little Lies.
Big Little Lies.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's always kind of played as like the character that you just kind of write off until you realize like, oh no, she actually has an awareness that no one else does. in this entire world.
I really like her. I really like her because I think you're right. She's like connected to the earth, and then she's got this like total power within her.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's like a power that most people would go, that's not a power.
Yeah,
until like it comes and bites you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She's normally who comes up for when people want to cast roles like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me.
And she's very good at it. You're not wrong. Like, that's the correct choice. That's why, even just in the world of this podcast, like, she comes up for roles exactly like this all the time.
Yeah.
My only quarrel with Zoe Kravitz is that she's clearly already a badass.
Yeah, but I do think she has the range to be very clearly not in a movie where I can sit there and believe it.
Okay.
Especially because if we're just remaking the Terminator, everybody already thinks Sarah Connor's going to be this badass, but she's going to be a very specific kind, and then flipping it and being like, no, she's the whole honcho badass.
She can still play grounded.
Yeah. But my issue is that, like, everyone was going to be coming in with that expectation of Sarah Connor because that's what we've known Sarah Connor to be for so long, because a lot of people don't even go back and rewatch the first Terminator. They just watch T2.
Right.
And I want people to go in and go, oh yeah, Sarah Connor has no reason to be a badass yet. And I love your choice. Zoe Kravitz is amazing. That would be my main qualm of, like, we're fulfilling the audience expectation instead of defying it.
Right.
It's not a bad choice, but that is my one issue with it.
That's why I had my second choice. But what's your choice?
What's your second
Chris.
choice?
No, what's his choice?
Well, it's funny because
It's whatever Chris said.
I had mine narrowed down, and Zoe Kravitz was very while you were kind of going back and forth, I was going back and forth. So you have taken Zoe Kravitz from me, which is great. You made my choice for me, which is fantastic. So then my suggestion would be Yara Shahidi, who's the eldest daughter on Blackish, and then she has her own show, Grownish.
Mm-hmm.
I think she maybe is going to kind of subvert that expectation a little bit. Like, we mostly know her for playing, like, younger college students and more of, like, a lighthearted comedy thing, but she absolutely has the range. And I think that she has that spark in her. You could believe, like, oh, she could become this total badass down the line.
I do love Yara Shahidi.
Yeah, she is.
I think she's amazing. And I feel like she hasn't been, I'm not saying fully utilized yet. Like, she's done incredibly well on TV, but it's like she has that charisma. Like, someone give her a big movie at this point.
Yeah. She's also come up a bunch because she's great.
Yeah.
I don't think we can cast her Sarah Connor until we can pair her with an interesting Kyle Reese. So let's talk about Kyle Reese next. Diane, who did you have for Kyle Reese?
Stephen James.
I don't know who that is.
He was on Degrassi Next Generation. I think he was also on If Beale Street Could Talk. Really, he's got a good range. And he just, like, one of those actors, when I saw him, I was just like, huh. Made me think.
Oh, love that guy.
Yeah.
Not enough to know him by name.
But
love him.
he's I mean, the
Say
thing with
his name again, I'm sorry.
Stephen James.
With a PH. Oh,
PH.
PHA,
okay.
not E.
Uh-huh.
But the whole thing about, at least my vision of Kyle Reese, is that as much as Sarah Connor is every woman,
Okay.
Kyle Reese is every guy from the future. He's any dude.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely like the idea of someone who's not crazy, but someone who you'd think, oh, okay, he's not a stalker.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go with this guy. So I wanted someone who had, like, a trustworthy face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
He does have a trustworthy face.
a
And a handsome face.
Doesn't
A
he?
handsome, trustworthy face.
Yeah.
Mimi, who did you have for Kyle Reese?
Dylan O'Brien.
Nice.
Always Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien's always my choice. Dylan O'Brien has the range to freak us out with, I can't handle the world that I'm currently in, but also throw in a quick joke here, but also be really incredibly likable. And he's somebody, like, you would want to rescue, so I understand whoever ends up being our Sarah Connor sort of being like, let me also protect you in some kind of way, which could lead her to become the hero she's supposed to be. Because I'll just want to protect that guy. You can't say nothing wrong.
I understand. I understand. Oh, he's so cute.
So cute.
So cute.
He's so cute.
And he's good in like I said, almost everything. In almost everything, I stand by that. There's, like, one movie I hate.
Well, isn't it like the third one?
Everyone's going to have a movie they
series he was
hate.
in?
No, I love all those movies.
Oh, never mind.
I read those books, though, and
I read the books, too.
I like how the movie goes, never mind, with almost everything in the book.
Yeah.
That's the Maze Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, who do you have for Kyle Reese?
I'm trying to, like, narrow down my list here. Some of my Kyle Reese are a little bit older, I think, than would be appropriate for, like, Yara Shahidi or Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, I mean, I put
you threw out there.
Both of mine are about 30.
Yeah.
It's like they need to not be like, oh, the world is big and scary.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Lakeith Stanfield.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah, I think all the things you need Kyle Reese to be, he can absolutely pull it off. Like, you need to believe he's competent and capable, but I can also believe him, like, having that moment of just, like, absolute sheer panic and being overwhelmed and be able to hit all of that emotional range.
He freaks out really well.
Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
like, I think that's the way that we've structured this Kyle Reese, is that character actually has to go through a much bigger emotional range other than just being a weird little, like, creepy rat person.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
My Kyle Reese is an actor named Jordan Calloway. He was on Riverdale, he's in Black Lightning, and he's also in The Mick, so he can do, like, the action stuff, but he can also do the comedy stuff. And so I thought that was kind of important, of, like, the blend of, like, the drama action, but also, haha, here's a joke.
okay.
And he also happens to be very attractive because, it's a
He's
show on the
incredibly
CW.
attractive.
Hello.
He's in that Black Lightning spinoff
There's going to be a Black Lightning spinoff?
of his character.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
I didn't even know about that.
I don't know if it got it. I know it was like a sneaky pilot within
Ooh.
an episode or whatever.
Apparently he's also in something called Drumline, A New Beat.
I like Drumline.
I like the first drum one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I didn't realize there were more than one.
That's the thing. I think this is not the first one.
It's not the first one.
I think
But
he's
you
a
need
bit-
to-
I think
the
he's
first
a-
Drumline is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's excellent, but I think he's a little bit young to have been in
Okay.
the first one. But yeah, like so it's Terminator. I went with unknowns as much as I can because I knew all of you would be bringing in the known people, so I was trying to throw in some monkey wrenches into everything. So I wanted to give us some other options as well. So we have our 4 Sarah Connors and we have our 4 Kyle Reeses. What do we think is the best pairing of those two? Everyone say their Sarah Connor again. I had Sarah Nicole Robles.
I had Saoirse
Ronan.
Yeah.
Zoe Kravitz.
Yara Shahidi.
And then Jordan Calloway.
Stephen James.
Dylan O'Brien.
Lakeith Stanfield.
So is there any, like, of those 8 names, is there anyone that's like, well, we need this one?
I need Dylan O'Brien.
I felt like that might be the case.
I like that. I really like Yara Shahidi for this. And I think
Okay,
I love
yeah.
Zoe Kravitz, but I think Sammy raised a good point about, like, I already know that she's
a badass.
a
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah.
I kind of like someone jumping in who's going to give off a little bit of that.
I would be
More
willing to
grounded
do
vibe.
Yara Shahidi and Dylan O'Brien.
I'd be down for
Yeah,
that.
I think
Yeah.
they would go well
Yeah.
against each other.
And I'm never going to say no to Dylan O'Brien.
No.
And
Actually,
you should-
Physically incapable.
You should not.
I think none of us at the table will actually say no to Dylan O'Brien.
No, absolutely not.
I know that for my future notes when I come back on this podcast.
Just cast Dylan O'Brien in every character
Yeah.
and just
Yes.
call it like
Cloud Atlas
multiplicity.
2.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, great. I mean, I'm happy with that. That's a great pairing, and I think that's super duper fun. So, who's going to try to kill them? Mimi, who's your Terminator?
Oh gosh. Okay, I have 2 again. So can I?
You're first. Go ahead.
Okay. So I took the note as I wanted him to be a little bit more human. I still wanted him to be like a crazy looking human, but I still wanted him to be a little bit more human. So my first choice was Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
he is buffed up in a very human-like way, but is still like he could crush you with his bare hands. But then if I wanted to go a very specific Terminator route, Winston Duke was my
Okay.
I
Nice.
specifically didn't cast Winston Duke because I knew someone would bring in Winston Duke. I love Winston Duke. I have cast him so many times on this podcast, which is why I don't think we can go with him here. But he is great. Interesting. Go on, Chris.
I'm trying to get mine down to which one of these names I want to go for here. Okay, this is an oddball choice, but like I really think that this is someone who our Terminator should not stand out in a crowd. So I was basically trying to avoid anyone who was like very traditionally like handsome, like you would stop and give them a second look because they shouldn't be that way, but I also feel like could still have that kind of range and be blend in, but come off as a little bit sinister.
Uh-huh.
I went with Jesse Plemons.
Ooh, interesting.
Nice.
I think he could blend in, but I really think he could give that menace when he really needed to. And I have full faith that he could get in like, the kind of buff shape you need to be in to be a Terminator because this is Hollywood and everyone can do that.
I love that.
Look at Chris Pratt. So
Yeah. I think that's a fun choice.
yeah, I think
He's also just
great.
so great.
Yeah.
In everything.
In everything, he's always astoundingly good.
Yeah.
I actually weirdly saw an old CSI episode that I remember with him in it.
Yeah.
Where he plays this totally like murderous kid. And it's so creepy and scary.
Yeah.
He was good when he was like 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
even like I can't remember the character's name in Breaking Bad, but like that character is like
Yeah.
kind of hitting that range already that we're talking about here.
And even like his character in Jungle Cruise of like it's what?
Lucian.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's this fantastic combination of like menace and comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. He's great. Let me tell you about who I had.
Mhm.
For me, for our Terminator, I kind of avoided the characters that were like kind of the big muscle-bound people, because when your insides are a robot, you don't need to be covered in muscles. And which is an interesting comparison for Jesse Plemons, because I think he kind of meets that. Like, you blend in on the outside because your insides will lift anything. That's why it never makes sense to me when they draw Superman as like this roided out man. It's like, it doesn't matter. You have superpowers. You have super strength. You don't need to look like that.
But we like it that he does.
It depends.
Okay.
Does it depend? Because
What does it depend on?
Yeah, I was like,
I like when it looks like if you like stick him with the needle, he'll pop. Then I think it's a problem.
oh yeah,
Okay,
sure.
okay.
But that's everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so for me, I kind of prioritized movement. And like martial arts skills in this particular case. There's also comedy with this particular guy, but he's also done the action stuff. So again, comedy and action. He has a name that you won't really recognize because, like most stars, like, oh yeah, that's Winston Duke. That's the Black Panther guy, or oh yeah, Game Night.
Mhm.
So this is an actor named Chris Pang. You're gonna look him up and you're gonna go, I would never recognize this guy in a crowd, and that's part of why I went with him. I think that the guy who is our T-1000 in Terminator 2 does this very well. He looks super
okay.
generic, and I think Chris Pang looks super generic as well.
I don't know. I think Chris Pang he's too attractive.
He's unbelievably hot.
He's gorgeous.
Are you
Like,
looking at the
so
same Chris
odd.
Pang
Yeah.
that
the one
I'm
who's in
looking
Crazy
at?
Rich Asians?
Yeah. He's unbelievably gorgeous.
disgustingly
Yeah,
hot.
bad.
I would be like, excuse me, sir.
He stands
Is he
out in the
Street.
crowd.
He would stand there and I'd go, where are you going? And
I'd
can
let him
follow?
Here.
All right, I saw a different picture of him than the ones you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm like,
This one.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, I did. That's the
Yeah.
one I saw.
I'm
He's
like,
gorgeous.
He's
Okay.
like,
he can murder me, okay?
yeah.
yeah.
All right,
As long as he takes his shirt off first, he can murder me.
I will
Yeah.
die in his arms tonight. It must have been
So-
something we all said. Okay.
Yeah.
here's where my blind spot kicks in. Apologies, but I still think he's a good choice.
I feel you. I
But it turns out I'm wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
you're
All right, I
wrong.
get that.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, he's in Palm Springs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I cast him.
Crazy Rich Asians, he plays the best friend.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
married, yeah.
And in Palm Springs, he's the one that I think
He's the cowboy hat who, like, he's the, yeah.
the one that
Yeah, I mean, Let's just...
he, the,
I'm gonna
he's
make
going
that
down
my
on the girlfriend.
Thank
yeah.
you.
I'm going to make that my new,
Background.
Thank you for
Background.
reminding me he exists.
Yeah.
so he's great.
Chris Pang, we all love you except for Sam.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so
I
sorry.
I can't-
I wanted to make you the Terminator, and
can't
apparently
speak for
you're
Sam.
too pretty.
Yes.
Yes.
He would be in any store and I'm like, whatever you want.
He's
Right.
also,
Yeah.
he's also in
Would
Charlie's
you like
Angels.
more guns?
Yeah.
Here's more guns.
Yes,
Yeah,
he is in
exactly,
Charlie's
yeah.
Angels.
I haven't
Yes,
seen
he is.
Charlie's Angels, and I want to.
He is in Charlie's Angels. I will happily watch that with you.
Okay, great. I'd like the last time I came over for movie night, I was like, I want to watch Charlie's Angels, but I think we watched. Did we watch Jungle Cruise instead?
No.
What did we watch the last time?
Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny.
That was right. That was the correct choice.
Yes.
All choice.
Yeah, I stand. by
I
that.
watched Jungle Cruise with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Next time, Charlie's Angels happening. Diane, who's your Terminator?
Okay, so I didn't want a muscle-bound guy, because I went through, like, muscle-bound guys, and I was like, no, too funny, too this, too that, doesn't work for me. I mean, Arnold was the perfect pick for that at the time, and also the wrong pick for that, but I was like, I can't copy that. But I wanted someone who could convey menace really well, and just, like, with one flick of a switch, like, scare the shit out of you. So I went with Walton Goggins.
Oh.
That is unexpected.
I love me some Wally Gogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's on Justified, he did The Shield, he's on some sort of sitcom now called The Unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he can do menace so well.
He can
And
do
that is
menace so well because his face doesn't look human.
And that's a very
It
different.
works for me.
Yeah, that's a
He's
very
Terminator.
different. That's like different from any kind of Terminator we've ever had before. Like, if Walton Goggins wasn't famous, he would immediately blend into the crowd. I kind of really like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that kind of fits our idea of the Terminator, and because it's Walton Goggins, like, as he starts going more and more Terminator, we can fuck him up.
And I like the idea of, like, he has that kind of smile, like, he could say something that'd be kind of weird, and you'd be like, what's wrong with you? And then he'd just smile like, you're probably fine.
Yeah,
But he also has that smile, like, he says something weird, and you're like, huh? And he smiles at you, and you're like, he's gonna eat my face.
Exactly.
Yeah. He has a smile that looks like it could keep going.
Yeah.
It's like a shark quality almost.
Yeah, that is a weird choice, but I think we should do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially following little Yara, little Dylan around.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, somebody protect those two. How are they ever going to be heroic enough?
You
But
see
they're
this
also
guy
when
in an
you notice
alley,
him in
you
a crowd.
immediately know he's a
Right.
threat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to notice him. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, don't notice him in a crowd, but if you're alone with him in an alley,
Scared
run.
as shit.
I love the idea, too, of potentially walking down a street and he's right directly behind you and you just don't recognize it and then you turn around and he's there and you're like, you're definitely something.
Yeah. Yeah, that is... I was never expecting that, but I think you're correct. Well done.
Yeah, high five.
Yeah.
I love it.
That
Thank
brings
you.
us to Ginger and Matt. So, Chris, you don't have people for this. Mimi,
Nope.
you went first last time. Let me tell you about... I'm just going to tell you about them both.
Yeah.
I wanted just a fun blend of people who are like, these people are charming, they're attractive and fun, we can see them being friends with Yara Shahidi, and I thought that they'd be great. So my Ginger is Emily Van Camp, from Revenge, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the Marvel movies and stuff. She's great. And then my Matt is an actor named Wole Parks. Wole is W-O-L-E, I may be mispronouncing it, and then Parks is how it's spelled. He's in Vampire Diaries, which guarantees that he's attractive. He's also in the new Superman and Lois show.
Oh.
He's also in Premium Rush.
I like him.
This guy is also very attractive, but Emily Van Camp is also very attractive. And I think they're just a really fun, cute couple.
Mhm.
And it would be really sad if they died. And so that's who I had for those two. Diane, who did you have for Ginger and Matt?
Let me just bring him up again. Sorry, I lost that. For Ginger, I actually had Mackenzie Vega. She was she played the daughter on Good Wife. She's a really interesting actress for me, at least, and someone who could bring the fun. Because one of the things I like about Ginger is she's kind of fun and she's really
very
kind of
fun.
cute. And then for for Matt, I actually put Ansel Elgort.
Oh, we can't go with him anymore. He's not a good dude.
Oh, did he get bad? Did he get?
He's canceled.
Oh, never mind. Let's just delete that right now. Sorry about that. I did not know.
You didn't know. That's fine.
I did not know. So no.
Now you know.
So my Matt is not anywhere near our
Yeah, he
consideration.
Yeah, no. But Mackenzie Vega's gorgeous.
Yeah, I like her.
Okay, so yeah, I agree. My Ginger, I wanted her to be incredibly fun. I also kind of wanted her to be a little bitchy because I wanted her to inspire our Sarah Connor to like stand up for herself and go on the dates with the bright people and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of took it into a vastly different direction. My Ginger is Emma Roberts. Because
Nice.
Oh.
I think
That's
she-
awesome. Because also she's ginger.
Well, is she?
She's red hair, isn't she?
No, she's blonde.
No, she's
Oh, she's
blonde.
blonde. Okay.
She's so blonde.
Yeah.
So, who am I thinking of?
She-
She's got red hair.
I feel like in some roles she's.
Oh, someone else has been
Yeah.
red. Okay.
Yeah.
So, never mind.
I think when she played Nancy Drew, I feel like something
Yeah,
like
she
that.
played
Yeah,
Nancy Drew.
okay,
She was
okay,
redhead,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So
Yeah.
I figured, like, my Ginger, I believe that girl's going out or staying in with her significant other, which, in my version, is not Matt. Her name is Nina, sure. And
Oh.
it's played by a lovely transgender actress named Dianne Bloom. Also in my version, Mina survives.
Yeah, because then we have another problem.
Well,
Yeah.
no, in my version, Mina survives because I just think that, like, the call happens of, oh my god, you know, too easily. After I've murdered everybody and then I get a phone call saying, no, Sarah Connor's somewhere else, I honestly think our Terminator would be, like, getting the call sort of midway.
Just kind of push her away and then just walk off.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, you're not even on my, I'm realizing I'm killing the wrong people. Like, you can't tell me I know exactly where she is and be done with it, so we kill Emma Roberts first because she's making a sandwich. A disgusting, nasty, ginger sandwich. She put so many things on that sandwich. It's like,
that was very
that's
confusing.
nasty.
And just drinking milk with it too.
Yeah,
That
I was like,
And there were
she's a
celery
psycho.
sticks?
It's like,
Yeah,
what is
with
happening
peanut
here? What
butter,
is
but like
going
also
on?
meat.
Yeah.
So she was making a disgusting sandwich. So she dies first, and then is about to kill Dianne Marino, who's in Gossip Girl, the new season of Gossip Girl, and walks out because the phone call happens and understands Sarah Connor is not in this apartment. And keeps going. Those are my choices.
I like them.
Is it bad though that I kind of want Emma Roberts to die in that? I feel like she gives good death.
Yeah, no, we're killing
Emma
Emma
Roberts-
Roberts.
Okay, you are killing
Yeah.
Emma Roberts.
Yeah, Emma
Okay, sorry.
Roberts
I think
is
I missed
Killing
her.
Emma Roberts, and then Zaya Moreno lives.
Okay.
Yes.
Is, I think, kind of how everyone wants that to go.
That works.
Cool. Works for me, too.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think that's fun, and I think that's a good choice. I like that. I think that's a good flip. And it means that at the end of the movie, Sarah Connor isn't completely alone. Which
Yeah.
is like,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also
like
nice.
literally her entire world is bulldozed in this. And it's like, hey, maybe one lifeline's okay.
Well, especially because the lifeline in the original is her baby. And now
Yeah.
we've taken her baby away
Yeah.
from her.
That's true.
So she needs another baby. And I just like the idea of her starting her own, like, we're all going to kick ass in the apocalypse, guys. This is how it's going to work.
Yeah,
And I've got my
into
best
it.
friend, Mina, here.
So then
I really like the idea of Sarah and Mina in the sunset.
Yeah.
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 So then I don't have Traxler. Did anyone else have Traxler? other
I have
than Mimi?
Traxler, and I also have
Dr.
the
Silverman.
shrink.
Yes, I have the Shrink as well. Tell us who your Traxler is.
My Traxler is Elizabeth Marvel. She was on House of Cards and Homeland and Law and Order. She just kind of has this face. It's just like she's like a cop face.
Okay.
I love a good cop face.
Apparently she's also in True Grit. Yeah, apparently she's great.
She's in Manifest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. She
Nice.
does have a cop face.
She's got a cop
She's got
face.
a cop face.
Mimi, who did you have?
I had Tony Leung Chiu Wei, right? What? Daddy
Say that
from
name again?
Trump.
Oh, Tony Leung.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's great.
He's awesome.
He's
Yeah.
amazing.
That was weird. I just typed in Tony and that's who came up.
Yeah.
It's almost like everyone's Googling him because of...
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, weird.
He's amazing in it.
Because everybody's like, oh, Simu's gonna be so hot, and then you're like, oh, actually, Daddy is smoking.
Okay, I have loved him since the Wong Kar-wai films. He is such a good actor.
Mhm.
And he blew me away in The Mood for Love, and I just
He's
never
magical.
haven't gone back.
He's magical, and I
Yeah.
honestly believe he seems like a character or a person who would have that dedication to keep going, to drink cigarette ash coffee, and just keep it moving and
Mhm.
like not have it phase him, and then do it in a way that I'm like all about.
All right. We'll go with Tony Leung Chiu Wei.
Cool.
Sorry, Dan.
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, I know. Because you
fine
said you
with
loved him. That's why.
I love him to death.
Great.
Wow, that's great.
Then we'll do that. Then that brings us to Silverman, the Therapist. Dan, you had that. Mimi, did you have this as well?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so tell us who you had.
So I went in a very weird direction because
Okay.
I think this person as an actor is incredibly lovable, and I kind of hated Dr. Silverman throughout all of these things. He's just not helpful.
Correct.
But I would love to see this actor in this role because I think they could probably do it. Or it would be a challenge for them, and I want to see it. Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, fair. I think that's a good choice.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. I think that's fun. And I think you don't start hating them. You would learn to hate him.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
I actually just really like Mark.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a similar choice in terms of casting of like, oh yeah, obviously this person, we love you. What did you just say?
Mhm.
So for my Silverman, I went with someone who is Jewish, Julie Louis-Dreyfus,
Oh,
Oh,
I
interesting.
like that.
and
Oh.
it's, to be fair, it's kind of what she's doing in kind of the new Marvel TV shows, but at the same time, like if we're gonna have this person who's like doesn't believe anything that's happening across all our movies, you kind of want it to be Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she would just dismiss everything very offhandedly
Yeah.
in a very funny way.
But in a way that we're like, yeah, we agree with you. 2 minutes later, wait, no, we don't agree with you. What?
What did you
Yeah.
just say?
Yeah. But Diane, who did you have?
I actually had Brian Tyree Henry.
I don't know who that is.
He's on Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
I think I know that. I know-
He would be really good.
Yeah, I liked what he did on Atlanta.
Say his name
Oh,
again?
I
Brian
love
Tyree Henry.
He's in
Yep,
the
there he is.
Eternals.
Yes.
Or will be in the
He
Eternals.
will be in the Eternals.
I would be perfectly happy going with Brian Tyree Henry or Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So
As well.
Mimi and Chris, which of those two, which do you lean towards?
I think Brian Tyree Henry. I like Julia Dreyfus. I might find it a little distracting.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I agree.
Okay. great.
He's going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. We did it. We cast this movie.
That's right. Time to get to writer and director.
Shit.
So, Chris, your turn to go first.
No, come back around to me. I'm changing stuff up.
Sam, my turn to go first. I am specifically going to talk about writer. I'll get to director in a minute, but like for writer, this writer has an incredibly eclectic selections of movies he's written. For this, it was important to me that like for this team of writer and director, one of them needs to be a woman because our lead is Sarah Connor. And even in the original Terminator, James Cameron, oh man, I'm going to blank on her name.
Gail Ann Hurd.
Thank you. Which is crazy to me because I know someone named Ann Hurd. And it was James Cameron working with Gail Ann Hurd, and it was a two-hander. And it was both of them, and I think that's important. So for me, I kind of tried to avoid the male gaze with my director, and that's why I made her a woman. But for my writer, I wanted someone who had the experience of writing cool combat and action stuff, but also had a sense of humor. He was the creator of a show called Jean-Claude Van Johnson. The premise of the show is that Jean-Claude Van Damme has been a secret agent this whole time, and that's why they made all these movies all over the world so he could go do secret agent stuff.
That's great.
He's also one of the writers on Wonder Woman 1984, which we shat on earlier, but he also wrote Shang-Chi. But he also wrote Mortal Kombat. He wrote Godzilla. This is his wheelhouse. And I feel like some of the things where he does better are the ones where people let him write. Like Wonder Woman 1984 has 8 writers.
Yeah.
So he is a credited writer on it, but I think we all know that he's not the writer.
Yeah.
He wrote Godzilla, which a lot of my critiques of Godzilla are the direction, not the writing. And he clearly has a sense of humor and weird ideas, and I thought that he would be fun, and he's someone who definitely grew up with this movie, and so I thought he would be someone who would really be able to give it a fun twist. So that's why David Callahan was my choice for writer. I knew that it would be divisive at this table.
No. I can see your reasoning on that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You gave a lot of good reasons.
Thank you.
I can't argue with you.
I appreciate that. I mean, you can and have, but in this situation...
I mean, if you want to get into an argument about it, I got you.
Every once in a while, sometimes you got to go to the argument clinic.
That's true. Get cleaned out.
He's a writer
I'll
on
make that reference.
He's a writer on the Spider-Verse sequel, too.
Yeah.
So
he's very good, and I think he's well-regarded and people like him, but he's not a household name.
yeah.
But I don't think that necessarily... But I think he's good. And I watched the pilot of Jean-Claude Van Johnson, and it was very funny. It just never really went, because it's the show's called what?
Yeah.
But it's such a ridiculous premise. But it was before Amazon TV shows really took off, and it premiered at the same time as The Tick. It was a whole thing. Chris, you ready to tell us about your writer?
I don't have a writer, but we'll come back to me on director.
Okay, great. Diane.
Abby Morgan.
Tell me about
writer.
Abby Morgan.
She's actually done a whole bunch of stuff about female empowerment and stuff. So she did a movie called Shame with Steve McQueen. She did The Iron Lady. She did The Invisible Woman. She's about to do something called The Suffragette.
Okay.
And I like the idea of giving someone who really understood a woman's power the screenwriting job.
Abby Morgan is a recurring character on Dawson's Creek.
ABI Morgan. Sorry about that. She's a British writer, and she's not exactly written blockbusters, but I kind of like the idea of the way she writes women.
Yeah.
That's a great reason to recommend her. Mimi, who did you have for writer?
Lana Wachowski.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
I think that the Wachowskis... I have major problems with Trinity, and I have major problems with Niobe in the original Matrix trilogy, and it's kind of just that they're really just there to make sure these guys' storylines are really great, and they don't have their own. But since their own personal transitions, the characters that they have created that are women are incredibly strong, have whole lives and backstories that don't really surround themselves with men. I would say even their stories are infinitely better now. And so I think that they can handle whatever we want to do with Sarah Connor, but especially with the idea of, my Ginger and my Mina characters. And then, bringing in this sort of, funniness that we also have to, have just to make it a little bit light, but also can really tap into the idea that this is terrifying, because I think they've experienced that in their own lives. But Lana in particular. So
I think that's because Lana's generally the writer and Lily is generally the director, correct?
No,
No.
it depends on what they're working on.
Depends on what they're working on.
Like,
Okay, fair enough.
Lana's
Matrix,
directing the
Matrix, she's doing the
4.
Matrix.
Right, but she
Lana-
did not write it.
Lana does
Story,
no, she
I
did.
think. Story and screenplay.
That's
Okay.
all hers. Lily's
I
not
am,
a part
I am,
of.
Yeah.
right. I know
Matrix
Lily's like stepped away from it.
They don't really work
for-
together very much anymore, but I think like
Which is
it's
fair.
because Lily wants to do different stories and Lana wants to stay in the sci-fi fantasy genre.
Yeah.
Which
so I think that's
That's reasonable.
why
Great.
it's perfect.
I am very excited for Matrix 4.
I'm
It's going to be
so
great.
excited
I'm very
for
excited.
Matrix 4.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It might
okay.
actually get me back in a theater.
That's gotta be seen in a theater.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot in theaters. So.
I haven't in 2 years.
So, all right. So we have our ideas for writer. Chris, who do you have for director?
Okay, so I was trying to think of horror directors in particular.
Interesting.
'Cause
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that element really needs to be leaned into, and I think maybe even more so in the screenplay, the director needs to have that understanding. So I went for Rose Glass, who directed Saint Maud. It's a movie I have not actually seen, but she's a British filmmaker, and I've heard amazing things about Saint Maud, that it's like very like high-level psychological horror. Like, it's a great film that really like actually has like character and theme and is really palpable. I've just heard nothing but great things about it. And I think it'd be cool to see someone who has a horror sensibility come in, and then, you know, I think it's easier to teach someone, like, bring in a really good second unit to come in and do like a lot of the action stuff, but you need someone who understands character and tone. I think she could do it.
I think that's reasonable. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mimi, who do you have for director?
Well, I originally put Dennis Villeneuve.
Oh, Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, villain.
Yeah.
Little Dennis.
We know who you're
Denny.
talking about. We
Yeah.
also can't pronounce it, and that we should look it up.
I really
Yes,
wanted to.
Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve.
Is that actually
Yeah.
how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's how
Denny,
you pronounce
Denny
his name.
Villeneuve?
I listen to a lot of film podcasts.
Great, because I
Denis
did.
Yeah.
Villeneuve is what I always originally said. I never said anything else.
No, that's all. I
Yeah,
heard.
no one listened to my episode where we remade The Abyss 4 weeks ago, where he was our director for that other James Cameron movie,
Oh,
The
sorry.
Abyss.
Well, I chose Denny, my best friend Denny, whose name I totally know how to say. Well, I chose because I really think he's great at epics, and I do feel like my other problem with the original Terminator is they didn't know how big it could be, and it was an epic from the beginning and should have sort of been treated in that way. Not necessarily like a huge blockbuster, but like just the scope of what they were doing. Which I think a lot of movies in the 80s kind of suffer from, because they could have been done bigger. I mean, not everything could be Star Wars, but like you could have treated it as such,
Yeah, and they didn't know.
and they didn't know. But like I do figure nowadays, especially with our story, we know. So I wanted somebody who could handle that brevity.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Diane,
Alex Garland,
tell us about Alex Garland.
Ex Machina.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
I was just thinking, because he's also...
Dredd.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Love Dread.
Great.
Love Dredd.
Great sci-fi director.
Yeah.
And writer. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of sold me.
So my director, I went with. I found her because she was the one who directed The Old Guard, which was that Netflix movie with Charlize Theron. Because I was like looking for cool, like interesting action set pieces. But yep, Gina Prince Blythewood. She also directed The Secret Life of Bees and Love and Basketball. And I'm like, if we're gonna be treating this as a love story between Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese, we need to have someone who can direct a love story. And Love and Basketball is that. And so I thought that...
So is The Old Guard.
Yes.
The Old Guard's a love story about you and your friends.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. I liked The Old Guard a lot.
I
I
think
did too, it was fun.
GPB is the queen. She's the queen of the intimate sex scene.
Which this movie is known for.
She does great intimacy. I think she's amazing. Like she's so great. I don't know. I'm obsessed with her. Personally. That's all. I have nothing to add. I'm just
Okay.
saying all great words about your choice.
So here's the thing. I haven't gotten anyone yet.
Mhm.
Let's go with Gina Prince Blythewood. Who is the writer that you would pair
No
with?
L. No L.
Okay.
Life.
Just Blythewood. I want to throw in something. What if
Blythewood.
Alex Garland wrote it?
Blythewood.
I'd be down for that. Because he could. I mean, he's a brilliant writer.
He's more prolific as a writer than director, and the movies he's directed, he's also been a writer on, and I think he can have a really interesting, cool take on that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Of just a really intricate managing of a story in a weird and creepy way, and then GPB can really connect with the actors.
Yeah.
And for the story,
really bring out the story we're trying to get.
I like that.
Yeah.
Fuck, now I want this movie.
Yeah, I totally want to see this remake.
Frustrating.
GPB,
I can
if
go
you're
and watch it
listening,
tomorrow and add it to my list of Terminator movies.
Exactly.
But yeah, that is our Terminator, which we can call Terminator because the Terminator already exists.
There we go.
Yeah.
So this is Terminator. Sarah Connor is going to be played by Yara Shahidi. Kyle Reese is going to be Dylan O'Brien. The titular Terminator will be Walton Goggins against all odds. Ginger is going to be Emma Roberts. Mina is going to be Zion Morena. Traxler will be Tony Long Chinwei. Say the name again. Chuwei? I wrote it down and I can't read my handwriting.
Tony Long Chuwei,
Tony Long Chuwei.
I think.
And then Silverman will be Brian Tyree Henry. All of this will be written by Alex Garland and directed by GPB Gina Prince Bythewood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terminator.
Yes.
Dun, dun,
We did it. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Awesome. Thank you all for being a part of episode 100.
Thank you. This was so much fun. Yeah.
This was great.
Super fun.
I really liked this. Cool. So now's the time to go around and promote things that you want to promote and tell people about your social medias. We went clockwise last time, so let's go counterclockwise this time. Chris, you've got shows and things.
I do have shows and things. So I have a podcast called Tim Talk with 2 M's, named after Bruce Timm, who created Batman animated series and the DC animated universe. And so my friend and I are rewatching all that and talking about it. And we are now in our last series of Justice Unlimited. So we're kind of on the home stretch here. And Sam, you've been a guest on that multiple times, which has been lovely. And then I'm also now producing a show called X-Ray Vision for Crooked Media, and it's with Jason Concepcion, and it's hitting all of the high-level zeitgeist-defining stuff, including Marvel, and we'll be doing Dune and Star Wars and stuff like that. It's a really fun show, so go check that out.
Mimi.
Yeah, that's me, Mimi Darling. I'm your ones and twos. I'm so sorry, I forgot what we were doing. I was so enraptured by everything that you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
I'm not doing anything in comparison.
you're doing lots of things.
My name is Mimi Darling. And I run See It On Tuesday, which is a currently Instagram account where I tell you how you should watch movies because you definitely should see them. I even feel like I said that exact thing in the beginning of this. And
But it's a great.
You have a tagline.
It's a great
It's exactly
tagline.
right.
Yeah.
yes, see all the movies, but don't spend too much money on all of them. That's my motto.
Good. Dianne.
I'm a writer, so hopefully at some point you might actually see something I wrote. Nothing's happening so far, but hey. And you can find me on Twitter at @Dibster.
Oh, right. Social media stuff. Lord of Fur.
Yeah, Lord of Fur on Instagram, but I'll occasionally post a Lego, so you're not missing out on much.
I like a Lego.
Yeah, at See It On Tuesday.
Excellent.
To not see me post.
Well, if you want to see my Twitter, I am at Sam Gasch, SamGasch, on Twitter. On Instagram, you can follow the podcast at Ideal Remake, or join us on Facebook, Ideal Remake or Ideal Remake Podcast. Or Ideal Remake is also on YouTube if you prefer to absorb your podcast that way. Ideal Remake is also a part of the Dueling Genre Network, so if you want a great way of communicating with me or any of the other podcasts on the Dueling Genre Network, you can always go to duelinggenre.com and join the Discord. And that's super fun. Or do what all podcasts ask you to do if you're a fan of Ideal Remake or Tim Talk or any podcast, or what was the name of the new one?
X-Ray Vision.
X-Ray Vision. You can go on Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review because that is great and algorithms run our lives. Cool. So we will now end as we always do, and this is a great movie for it. Dianne, what's your favorite quote from the movie The Terminator?
The Terminator. It's got to be I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. It's just delivered so well. He wanders out. He comes back in a car. He smashes the cop. It's just fantastic.
Yep. Mimi?
You know, watching this over was the first time I realized Kyle Reese actually says, "Come with me if you want to live."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it for me. I was like, "Okay, Kyle Reese, I'm not going anywhere with you," but like,
But good line.
Yeah, good line. Thank you
Yeah.
for dropping it.
Chris?
Oh, it's just Kyle Reese yelling into monitor, Sarah Connor!
I think it was at the end of the movie, but I think the line that stuck with me the most was, "There's a storm coming."
I know.
Thank you.
We didn't know, clearly.
Yeah. There's a storm coming. I know. Drives off towards the storm.
Yeah, that backdrop.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
wonderfully painted
That was
backdrop that was.
Seriously.
It's like,
That little stand on the road.
Yeah, I was like,
It's
I have never
beautiful.
seen anything more prettily painted.
Yeah,
that was
because
very
that
pretty.
is not real.
It is so not real.
Is that the Universal lot? Because I think I've seen that backdrop before.
Yeah. Fun though.
Yeah, very beautiful.
I was like, when is the car going to have to stop because it's not real? Oh no, they're just going to keep making the car smaller. It was good. I liked it. Cool. Thank
Yeah,
you all
Cameron
again.
said they played with a lot of forced perspective on the movie.
Yeah.
But only in the ending.
Makes sense.